Golden Spiral Media presents The Flash Rewatch.
I think you've been reading too many comic books.
Dedicated to the 1990 television series The Flash on CBS.
I think I'm starting to like this.
Join Corey and Tom each week as they chase down the fastest man alive and examine the short run of 22 episodes.
I mean, you people have a reputation. Unorthodox experiments, secret government contracts.
Send us your feedback at goldenspiralmedia.com/feedback. Like our Facebook page at facebook.com/rewatch podcast. And follow us on Twitter at rewatchpod.
Anytime you need me, I'll be there in a flash.
And welcome back to the Rewatch podcast and the Flash 90 Rewatch. I'm Corey.
And I'm Dr. Marvin Candle, and this is the orientation film for Station 3 of the Dharma Initiative. Your duty is to ensure that every 108 minutes, the button is pushed. From the moment the alarm sounds, you have 4 minutes to enter the code into the microprocessor. Do not attempt to use the computer for anything else other than the entering of the code or a podcast.
Wow. True GSM fans will get this, I think.
There you go.
But yeah, you have to pick the most, random obscure character for your intro? Sure.
I know. I guess when I saw him, I was like, oh my god, that's him.
We'll talk about it. But in the meantime, thank you for joining us, everyone. We're here to discuss 2 more episodes of The Flash 90. We're almost at the end.
I looked at that when I was looking at the IMDb. I was like, oh my god, there's only a couple episodes left. What the heck? That went quick.
Today's episodes are Captain Cold and Twin Streaks. And before we get into it, we like to remind you that we are part of the Golden Spiral Media Podcast Network. And you can send us your feedback at goldenspiralmedia.com/feedback. Type out a message or use the SpeakPipe widget to record your own voice, or call 304-837-2278. And also head over to facebook.com/goldenspiralmedia and follow on Twitter at GSM Podcasts. Okay, so let's get into the first episode discussion today. The episode is Captain Cold, written by Paul DeMeo and Gail Morgan Hickman, and directed by Gilbert Shilton. And this originally aired on April 6th of 1991.
I love it. No more infighting over turf. No more slicing the pie so thin you can't even see the wedge on your plate. From now on, this city is going to be run by a single entrepreneur, me.
Oh, no, thank you.
You know, I like the way you clean house. I'm offering you a permanent position in my organization. I'll pay you very well.
Oh, that's very flattering of you, Mr. Swain. But you see, one of the great pleasures of my job is to travel.
Have it your way. The rest of your payment, as we agreed, and I thank you. Hey, listen, there is one more little job I'd like for you to do before you leave town.
Oh, I'd really like to, but I have reservations in Saint-Tropez.
Yeah, work on that tan. You're probably not the right guy for this job anyway. It's a tough number. A real challenge.
Oh, really? I'm listening.
There's this guy in town I'm still worried about. He's put a lot of my peers out of business lately, and I'd be very grateful if you'd put him on ice.
And who is this?
He calls himself The Flash.
Oh, The Flash.
In the midst of a record-breaking summer heatwave, cutthroat crime boss Jimmy Swain prepares to take over the Central City underworld by eliminating his competitors. To that end, he has hired the mysterious Captain Cold, a mercenary albino hitman wielding advanced weaponry capable of freezing his targets at sub-zero temperatures. Having finished his job with the city's underworld, he soon becomes outright obsessed with ending the life of the fastest man alive. After several confrontations and an almost apparent win, Barry finally triumphs through the use of a special heat belt developed by Tina and a well-placed mirror, ending the early winter.
I know you're in there. I can smell your cheap perfume. Are you hiding in the shower? The Iceman cometh.
Hello there.
You're alive.
No thanks to you.
Hey, I'm sorry about what happened. It's just that Oh, look at what you've done. You ruined all my photos. You know, I could have got 10,000 bucks for those pictures of you and Mr. Ice Cube here. Oh, thanks a lot. There goes my career.
Wait a minute. You mean to say you had pictures of Captain Cold and you didn't call the police?
You know, they would have seen him on the front page of the Clarion.
I don't believe you. All you care about is your money and your career. You almost got us killed.
No, I didn't mean to.
You didn't mean to what? To be an unprincipled, manipulative brat who thinks the truth is something to be twisted to get what you want? If you really want to be a good reporter, you have to learn to care about the truth and about people. The police will be here for him.
Okay, so let's get into the flash points.
So just real quick, at the beginning there, when we have the introduction of Terry Cronenberg, the reporter, they threw in a reference to Lois Lane.
I caught that.
Yeah.
It's one of those things of like, oh, Lois Lane, and then you think, oh, wait, this is a DC universe, so...
Exactly, yes. And it brings to mind, again, the conversation we had back in, I don't think it was the pilot. It was where they showed that the movie theater was playing Batman and Superman back to back.
Right.
So it's like, is this in the DC universe, or is this in the real world where there just happens to be someone named Lois Lane? You know?
Who's still a famous reporter and is worthy of being referenced as a joke to another reporter.
I found out that Corbin Burnson, you remember him from L.A. Law?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
He was apparently supposed to be the original Captain Cold for this episode.
Oh.
He was actually married to Amanda Pays. They've been married, I mean, even up till today, they've been married since 1988. And so I guess this was, you know, like, hey, you know, you want to come have a part on the show or whatever. And I guess they had him scheduled to do it and everything. But then with L.A. Law, their shooting schedule or something, they couldn't disrupt this or that or whatever. And he got signed on to do that. And so they had to get someone else.
Oh, there you go. Very cool, but I guess it never happened.
This is something that I don't know if you're not a fan of the comic books, maybe you don't know. You might know Captain Cold from the new Flash series, you know, played by
Wentworth Miller.
That's it. Yeah, Wentworth Miller. Anyway, everyone knows him from the new Flash series as Captain Cold. He does an amazing job as Captain Cold, but he's not really known for his Captain Cold for wearing glasses so much. I know he's had shades here or there, but Captain Cold in the comic books has a very specific set of glasses, like these little slits. You know, it almost looks like the old school 3D glasses with the red and the blue, but it's like rectangular like that. But then instead of lenses, there's these two tiny slits for where the eyes would, where you'd peek out through the eyelids there. It's a very unique look for him, basically. And I noticed that in this show, he wore those shades almost the entire time. So I'm guessing that's a reference to the comic book version who always wore those glasses. And then maybe they just didn't want to get, like obviously the costume is not like from the comics, but they wanted to throw some references in there to that. So I'm guessing that's why the glasses were a part of his costume for this episode.
Well, I think the newest Captain Cold, Wentworth Miller, I think his are more like welding glasses or something like that, right? Just something that's not so jokey.
Right, exactly. Now, normally I watch these episodes alone, but I've been on break the past week here, so I've been home, and my fiance has been home as well. So she actually watched this one with me, because I was watching it, and she was doing some grading work and stuff like that, and she's like, "Oh, what are you watching?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm watching the shows for the podcast." She goes, "Oh, okay," and she sat down and watched it. And when Captain Cold came on screen, she looked at the guy. And she said, "Is that Steve Martin?" I'm like, "No."
Why, because he's got white hair?
Yeah, I was like, but then I started looking at him, and I'm like, well, he kind of does look a little bit like Steve Martin. If you look at him, yeah, it's, it is that white hair that, but it's something about the face too is very similar to Steve Martin. I was like, all right, well, there's a little connection I can talk about. Why not? Anyway, all right. Now, obviously, for quick connections from the comic books, obviously we got Captain Cold, big character in the Flash universe in the comic books. The one thing he's definitely not in the comic books a mercenary albino hitman. That's not his background. So I'm guessing they decided to go albino because usually albinos, they have like lighter skin, paler skin, so that would like sort of fit the whole cold, freezing type thing, I guess.
Well, that's what I figured. Plus, I think they maybe a bit in a cliched way give him purple eyes as well, and sort of make him have this unique look. I don't know.
So in the comics, though, he's basically just a normal criminal. He grew up, he had a pretty rough childhood with his father being abusive and all that, and he fell into crime when he got older. Eventually, develops this gun, that he wanted to charge it at some, he was very smart, in the comics, and he wanted to charge this gun up that he created at the scientist's laboratory or something like that, and he did that, but it ended up changing the gun into this cold gun that he uses. He was trying to develop it to do something else, and it ended up creating this cold gun, and from that point on is when he started going around as Captain Cold. He is actually the leader in the comic books of all of the Flash's enemies. Well, not all of them, but a certain group of them called the Rogues, the one that lives in Central City. So like people like the Trickster, like Mirror Master, Heatwave, all those guys, they're all They're all members of this group that they call the Rogues, and he was the leader of them because he was so smart. He was just a natural leader, and he actually has rules for the Rogues, things that they're not supposed to be doing. And the one thing that he said is, "There's no killing unless you have to. We're criminals, we're not murderers, but if you have to, then it happens. But for the most part, no one should be killing." And then he laid out these other ones that said, "Hey, no drugs. No one should be using drugs because we're messed up as it is. We don't need drugs to add to this whole situation." And then finally he said, if you're using drugs, eventually that's going to lead to you guys violating rule number 1 because you're going to be out of your mind. And then he said, finally, rule number 3 is make it all about the score. We're not trying to settle vendettas and things like that and getting vengeance on things. We're all about getting paid, find the score that we want, let's steal it, get the money, and we move on. That's how we do things. So he sort of has like somewhat of a moral code in the comics. It's like, it's not just about being evil to be evil. We just, we want to rob things. We want to get things and get paid for them. So that's his character in the comics. We see a little bit of it here in this show where he's all about fulfilling the contract. That's what he wants to do. No matter what, he's going to fulfill the contract. He's not going to break a contract. No one's going to break a contract on him. So you get a little bit of that in the character that we see here in the show.
I would have loved to see that as like a spin-off on what they're doing now on TV, right? Like Wentworth Miller, like once he was done on The Flash, I know he was on DC's Legends of Tomorrow as well.
Right.
But if they did like a Rogues spin-off and made it like a, I don't know, kind of like an Ocean's 11 type, like anti-hero thieves or something, like Thieves with Honor or something. Like, that could have been awesome.
Yeah, I think it would be a cool show. And, like, they are really popular. Those, him and the guy who plays Heatwave, both of their characters are very popular, I know, amongst the fans of the show. So that would be, that'd be great to see.
I quit my job at the Inquisitor.
You did? What are you going to do?
You're looking at the newest writer for the Happy Times greeting card company. Card for every occasion. Okay. Roses are red. Violets are blue. If you don't pay our bill, our company will sue.
Congratulations, I think.
Well, at least it's honest. I figure it'll keep me in cornflakes until I get a better job from the newspaper.
I think you made the right decision.
I finally figured out who the Flash is.
You did?
Mm-hmm. I still think he's a cop. Someone you wouldn't suspect in a million years.
Really?
Mm-hmm. He's a nice guy. He's friendly, concerned. Works at the crime lab.
The crime lab?
Mm-hmm. Julio Mendez.
Julio?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my God, really? Julio?
Yeah, the way I see it, he puts on a little makeup, a little padding under his suit. That way he figures no one will even suspect.
Oh, man, that is amazing. I mean, who would have guessed? Julio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, his secret's safe with me. After all, he did save my life.
Julio, I want some couscous.
No thanks.
We were just talking about you.
Yeah? What about?
Well, we were wondering where you've been.
Well, I was just out running around.
Yeah, we thought so.
Okay, so let's get into the rundown of the episode. So, at the top of the show, crime lords having a meeting about what exactly?
Yeah, they don't specify exactly, but they do mention the new guy in town, Jimmy Swain. So they did mention something's got to be done about him.
So somehow they think that this Jimmy Swain guy from out of town is so bad that all the crime lords in the city have to get together and talk about what to do about it.
I'm assuming that they heard, like people said, hey, I heard about this Jimmy Swain guy, and rumor is he wants to take over or something like that. Like, they don't say it exactly, but that's the idea that I got from it.
And I guess we may as well bring this up now because he is abruptly killed. But
yes.
As your intro puts it, one of these crime lords, Johnny Choi, played by Francois Chow.
Yes.
Who was in Lost.
Yes. He showed up, and my fiance has seen Lost for the first time ever in the last couple months here. We've been rewatching it. So she's like, hey, that's that guy. I'm like, yeah, that's him.
Yeah, no, it was really cool to see him. And for those of you who saw Lost, I mean, I still laugh at the gag that in Lost, his character's name was Pierre Chang.
Yes.
As an inside joke that he's, in real life, his first name is French, but his last name is Chinese, so...
Yep.
Very cool to see him. But, I also like the idea that Central City's in a heat wave.
Right, uh-huh.
Instead of, it being, ultra cold or something, and for some reason Captain Cold has something to do with that. Let's just juxtapose it against a heat wave instead.
They've mentioned, they've said heat wave a couple times in the episode, and I don't think that's any reference to the actual character heat wave. I want it to be, because I like when they reference those things, but I just figured, no, that's just it's a temperature. That's what they set up there for that. It's not any reference to the actual DC Comics character, even though it would have been cool. They're not referencing anything there with that.
Yeah. And plus, he talks his way into the crime lord meeting by posing as an air conditioning repairman, which, I mean, it's kind of funny that the crime lords are having, the super secret meeting, yet it's so hot that they call in air conditioning repair.
Yeah.
Why would they do that? But then at the same time, it's a funny gag, so...
Yeah.
New character alert, and I'm assuming this is not, a quick connection. Terry Cronenberg.
No, the name sounded familiar, and I don't know why. It's the last name that seemed to, I was like, I've heard of that before, but I could not find anything about it in the DC Comics.
Well, I made, a connection in my mind over it. You know, not to the comic books or anything, but I mean, she's playing a reporter who gets called Lois Lane, but the character's name is Terry Cronenberg, and then Terry Hatcher went on to actually play Lois Lane.
Oh, there you go. All right, it's kind of like 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, but
I know.
I'll take it. We'll take it.
But she's just a terrible character. I'm going to say it now.
Oh, God, yes. She's awful.
From the moment she was on screen, like, just ignoring what the cops say about not crossing the police line, and it's her, like, freedom and right to be able to go and look. I'm like, you're going to contaminate a crime scene, you silly cow. Like, what's wrong with you?
You can't do that unless you're Lois or Clark, okay? You understand? You're not there.
Like, she's just the worst. And she gets worse as the episode goes on. Just, like, so self-involved. And even when they try to redeem her at the end, I'm like, I don't care. You're just the worst.
I know.
So, what about the man himself that they were all talking about? Jimmy Swain.
I know him, the actor, Jeffrey Combs, from Star Trek, because he's played a number of different roles in the Star Trek universe over the years. He's well known over there. I think he was on Deep Space Nine first as a guy named Wei Yun, and he was like a big player in a couple seasons there. But you know him from somewhere else.
Yes, so he's from an excellent B-grade horror film called Reanimator.
Okay.
And all of its sequels, by the way.
All of its sequels.
Yeah, there was like Beyond Reanimator and Reanimator Returns or something. Oh, I don't know. There's maybe 3 or 4 of them. But it's one of those weird weeks where, I watched The Flash this week and I'm like, oh, it's Jeffrey Combs. That's really cool. And then over on Triplecast, another show I do for Golden Sparrow Media, we're watching The Frighteners, Peter Jackson.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Jeffrey Combs shows up in that. And I'm like, it's just such a weird week to watch 2 things, to go back to 2 old things, and Jeffrey Combs is in both of them this week. It's just bizarre. But he doesn't get a lot of screen time, really.
No.
I'm surprised, really, because like I said, Reanimator, like a lot of people would know him from Reanimator, but I guess it's kind of his thing. I mean, he had to make some money in 1991.
I guess so, yeah.
Took this part where he didn't have to spend too much time on set.
I guess so.
But I liked what he was doing. Anyway, and then his interaction with Captain Cold, I think, is a good way to bring the character into the episode, right? The fact that he would go to this, like, eccentric hitman in order to take out the other mob bosses or whatever.
It's like, this is a big deal. You're trying to take over the entire crime network. So you want to go with someone who really will finish the job.
So what did you think of Captain Cold and, his barrage of toys? Cold weapons, if you will.
I think it was okay. It was not bad. I prefer Wentworth Miller just because I like his whole sarcastic, snarky take on the character. And he's still intelligent. His version is still intelligent. But this is not a bad version for the 90s, for a first try at it. He wasn't quite as snarky or sarcastic, but you could tell, like, he was very good at what he did. Like, he knew his weapons and everything. Obviously, they don't get into how he made them or anything like that, but I just, he's a very smart character as well. And when he goes to take on the Flash, he doesn't just go and take on the Flash. He, like, sets him up. He plants those bombs thinking, all right, let's wear him out first, and then we'll get him. He won't be able to run. So I think it's a good introduction for his character into this show.
Yeah, it was really different than what I expected. And I assume we're not going to see him again. Unlike, in the new series where they could, set up the character and you learn about him and his past and all that sort of stuff. Whereas here, he's kind of already an established criminal and they can just sort of throw him in to go after the Flash.
It's funny, like, this is sort of going to play a little bit into the next episode about, how the characters are developed and everything. But yeah, it's like nowadays they would go into all this backstory about the character and where he came from and why he does what he does. But, in this era, it's just like, here's a character, you kind of know him, boom, he's there. That's it. No explanation. You don't need to know where he comes from. He's a bad guy. What do you want? It's so different how things have changed.
Yeah. Well, but the other thing too is like how he uses the cold to stop the Flash. Because I'm kind of used to, the new series where it's just like, well, the Flash runs really fast and the cold slows him down pretty much, like kind
Right.
of like isolates that speed of his, you know, within it. Like that makes sense to me. I'm like, cool, I can go with that. Whereas here, it's more like I shoot you in the leg, and now your leg's all frozen, and so you can't run, you can't use it. It's still kind of like, you know, the Flash is like really quick. That guy has to shoot him quickly in order to do that. So a lot of the time he's like, yeah, okay, fair enough. I kind of prefer that it just slows him down. So really it just isolated his main power. So yeah, there's that. And then later when he completely freezes the Flash as well, like they did the effect a lot of the frozen people. And I actually think it looked kind of good. Like they actually got the actors in there to like get all the makeup done and then just sit really still. I'm not sure.
Had no issues with that effect at all.
I particularly enjoyed his snow globe that he gives to Swain.
Oh yeah.
Okay, again, it's kind of a give me where he's like, you know, I give these to all the people I work with,
Right.
and then all he had to do was pick it up and put it down, and then it froze the whole room.
Yep.
Like, what happened if you picked that up and put it down before you walked out? Because he kind of just strolled out of the room.
Right, he did.
So, you know, that could have backfired on him, I guess.
I guess, yes. Or it could have been just coincidence that it went off as he put it down. It could have been set on the timer.
No, that's a good point.
So, you know, as soon as he turned it on, you know, maybe like 20 seconds after the music stops or something, it goes off. I don't know. So it could be.
But then I cringed real hard when he went after Terry Cronenberg at her apartment.
Ugh.
Because he goes full Mr. Freeze at this point. Like,
Right, yeah.
Did you enjoy Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze? I didn't.
no.
And I
No.
did not want to see him shouting out pretty much what Mr. Freeze said. The Iceman cometh. Like, ugh.
Yep. As many puns as you can get in this scene, please. Let's put them in.
It was
No,
the
more. We
worst.
want more. That's not enough.
And then I also like that Barry catches him, right? And then he
Yeah.
breaks out of prison with those random, like, freeze balls or whatever they were he had hidden in his
Right.
heel. Like, just like a, you know, he's kind of just got weapons set up. You know, he even had some sort of bomb in his glasses so he could bust the chains open. Like,
Well, yeah, it shows, you know, he's a clever character. He's not just some dumb guy who just happened to find a powerful gun. Like, he actually thinks about these things.
oh, I did have to bring up as well. What did you think of Murphy writing his memoirs?
That was so funny. It was so funny. And that was actually going to be another alternative for my intro, other than the Lost reference. I was going to do something from, you know, I am Murphy from Murphy's Law or something like that. Because it's just so funny.
Like, I like that side of it. But then, the reason that we're at Murphy writing all this stuff down is because Terry had said that she worked for, like, one of the major newspapers. But
Yes.
it turns out she works for a rag. Even that I thought was, like, really, like, just terrible. Like, what a terrible
Yeah.
person.
I know. There's nothing that really saves her in this episode. It's just like, ugh.
How did Garfield fall for that?
He's busy. He's got a lot of other things on his mind. He's newly married, you know.
And then at the end, with the heat belt, what did you think of this?
I thought it was going to be used differently because I didn't realize he was going to use it just to unfreeze his leg or whatever. I thought it was going to be something where he was like totally like captured in ice and then had to somehow activate the heat belt to melt it all away from him. But it was fine. That's, makes sense. If someone's going to freeze you, you got to have something to counter that. So yeah, definitely need some kind of heating implement.
Yeah, I thought the same thing too, because when Tina gives it to him, she says like, oh, this will only work once, so be careful with what you do with it. So yeah, I kind of figured the same thing. Like, he got his leg frozen again and then used it. And I'm like, well, what if he just completely freezes you this time?
Exactly.
But of course, conveniently too, before he runs off, she goes, a hard reflective material should just shoot that cold ray back.
And I was like, oh, come on.
All right, so
Really?
a mirror. Yeah, just find a mirror.
I was actually hoping to see again the return of him vibrating his whole body. You know, like if he moves quick enough, he generates heat as well, and that could have melted stuff, you know? So I was thinking that would have been a perfect use to bring back him vibrating his whole body again, to get out of some kind of, ice encased, enclosure.
I know. That whole part where Tina has to go and steal the ambulance with the frozen Flash in the back, like, come on. She just steal an ambulance.
That scene was a little bit goofy, and like my fiance is like, Yeah, she's just driving off nice at 5 miles per hour, isn't she? She's not in any hurry at all. This is, let me just get out of here nice and slowly.
And finally, and honestly, I'd forgotten about this, but Murphy saw the Flash, and Bellows makes like a huge deal about how Murphy finally saw the Flash. I kind of felt like Murphy had seen the Flash, right? Like we'd seen him dress up like the Flash and stuff, and like I never really thought that Murphy was like a Flash denier still.
I don't think he's ever seen him officially on the show with his own two eyes. Like, it's always been like, maybe there was a flash of red, maybe a gust of wind, but yeah, it could have been anything.
I don't know. It seems like a weird gag at this point. I
Yeah.
kind of just feel like everyone knows that the Flash is real now.
Right. People are accepting it.
Yeah. So yeah, the fact that they brought this joke back just didn't quite make sense to me.
Right.
And of course, he's a good guy who could have taken credit, but didn't. Especially after you read his memoirs that are just so over the top.
Yeah.
I still giggle at that name, that Murphy's Law. Like,
Murphy's Law.
Genius. But all in all, I thought this was a great episode. I love
Yeah.
I love the bad guy. I thought it was, Terry aside, like just it was good. I really enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, the episode, I mean, it would have been fine without her character, actually. Like, she doesn't contribute a whole lot, to the main plot, really. She's just sort of there. So they could have done some more Flash Captain Cold scenes, or they could have done some more backstory with his character, So yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun. I enjoy the fact that it's a classic rogue in the show again.
Yeah, I'm there with you. And now it's time for another episode of The Life and Times of Bellows and Murphy.
There I stood face to face with the madman known as the Ghost. He had kidnapped my girl, killed my partner, and shot my dog. Now it was time for him to learn the real meaning of Murphy's Law.
Hey. Private property, huh? Come on, you guys will just have to wait for the hardcover edition like the rest of the world, all right?
This has been another episode of The Life and Times of Bellows and Murphy. All right, well, let's get into the second episode discussion. The episode is Twin Streaks, written by Stephen Hatman and directed by James A. I always struggle with this dude's last name. James A. Contner. All right.
Careful there.
So
Careful.
Weird. Contner.
Yes, Contner.
I'm sorry, James, but I'm trying. This originally aired on April 13 of 1991.
Stop. Well?
20% slower than 3 months ago. And your heart rate's faster. You can get dressed.
Thank you.
3 books out of place. 3 mental errors, the first you've ever made.
3? Oh, no. Come on, Tina, I'm having a bad day. That's all. Lighten up. I feel great.
Feeling great is hardly firm empirical evidence. Here are your blood chemistry results. Look, blood sugar down, iron down. And here's something that's up. Adrenaline levels. Barry, you're exhausted, severely fatigued. You're only at 80% capacity and it's getting worse.
I keep telling you, I feel great.
Yes, you feel great, but have you ever seen a light bulb before it burns out? For a moment or two, it shines very, very brightly, and then it's gone.
I'm not burning out.
Maybe you're not, Barry. But you're running on pure energy and willpower. It has to take its toll somehow.
Listen to me, I am only doing what I have to do.
I mean, look at these newspaper clippings. Flash saves little girl from runaway bus. Flash races heart attack victim to hospital. Flash saves family from burning building. 15 sightings of the Flash in the past 5 days.
Yeah, and ask these people if they were glad I was there.
I'm sure they were, Barry. But at what cost to you?
I can handle it. I'm not like other men. You of all people should know that. I can do things others can't.
Barry, listen to yourself. Do you think you're God? Or that you're immortal? You're showing signs of stress syndrome. Decreased physical capacities. Impaired decision-making. Barry, I cannot make it any clearer. If you don't slow down, you're going to collapse. You may even die.
When the scheming scientists of the Intelligent Corporation, Jason and Ted, encounter difficulties in their misguided efforts to artificially grow a super-speed human replicant, they seek a solution in the stolen DNA of the Flash, the one person they know has a body that can withstand great speed. Their experiments thus give birth to Pollux, a clone of the Flash that possesses all of his superpowers, but is mentally a hyperactive delinquent with the intellect of a child, and desperate to gain a sense of identity. Once learning of Barry, Pollux attempts to become him by going to his home and workplace, before eventually returning to the laboratory and finding his creator, Jason, ready to shoot him to cover up the failed experiment. Instead, Pollux catches the bullet and throws it back at the scientist. The Flash and Tina show up, attempting to convince Pollux that they want to help him, but he doesn't believe them, and a fight ensues between the two speedsters. The scientist awakens from his gunshot wound and attempts to shoot Barry, but Pollux takes the bullet and dies, his metabolism causing his physical body to burn up and disappear.
So, what do you think of our latest model here? Isn't he incredible? He's already learning at 100 times the speed of his predecessors. An hour ago, he was making gurgling noises. Now he's beginning to understand simple words and concepts.
What's causing it?
Well, it must be the combination of his growth hormones and his own speeded up metabolism. It's amazing.
Hey, don't you think it's dangerous?
Why?
Well, look at him. He's a child trapped in a man's body. No morality, no sense of right or wrong, and yet tremendously powerful. Doesn't that scare you?
No. What we have here is something incredible, Ted. This changes everything.
Well, what are you talking about?
Don't you see? The Intelligent Project as we know it is obsolete. But this goes way beyond that.
No, wait. You said that we were going to create a high-speed drone here. Now, that's what we've got.
Oh, we have something more than that. What we have is a whole new species. A synthetic human who can move faster than bullets or bombs. And we can create hundreds of them. Thousands. Just imagine what a foreign country would pay for an army of these. I'm talking soldiers, intelligence agents, assassins. A race of warriors.
That is not what this project is about. Now, you said we were going to create a force of good in the world.
Wrong. I said it would make us rich. And it will. Any nation on the map would pay millions for just one of these. But he needs a name. How about Pollux? Like Castor and Pollux, the Gemini twins, the Roman mythology. Now, as fast as you can, stack the blocks.
All right, well, let's get into the flashpoints.
Now, let's start with this. If we go a little bit here into the characters, we've got Ted Whitcomb, one of the scientists.
Yeah.
And he's played by Charlie Lang. And I don't know if you remember, but he actually played a Cro-Mag in Sliders from way back in our early days of the Rewatch podcast. He was in season 4 premiere called Genesis. That was their first move over to the Sci-Fi Channel. So he was one of the Cro-Mags in an episode. He was one of the main Cro-Mags, but still, given the, what we were watching at the time, it's understandable if you don't remember him.
Well, the Cro-Mags had extensive makeup on their faces
exactly.
too. So.
But like when I saw him on here, he was sort of still recognizable. I was like, oh wait, I've seen him before. Wasn't he in Sliders? I'm like, oh yes, that's right. So yeah, there you got him. And then the title of this episode, Twin Streaks thing.
Yeah.
Apparently that's more than just like that's a pretty big reference, because we've got the other scientist, Jason Bressel.
Yeah, this is played by a Twin Peaks alum, Lenny Von Dolan.
That's cool.
Yeah, he was in season 2, and he is actually in the movie Fire Walk with Me.
See, when I read that, I was like, well, that's cool. So it's not just due to the story, but we've also got someone from the actual show for a reason for the name. So that was pretty neat. All right, so I also noticed the old trick here. Well, I say old, but it's, if you're a speedster, just like Superman, he has some speed in him. You got to take shredded documents and put them back together at super speed, just like in Lois and Clark. So we got that scene there.
I think this trope kind of led to people doing that, right?
Right.
People are like, just because you shred your documents doesn't mean we can't put them back together. And I think since then, they have updated paper shredders, really, to like like do what they say. Like they shred your paper up now.
Right,
Like they
yeah.
don't just strip it down into those, you know, thin lines anymore. Like,
Right, exactly.
They've got like jagged teeth on them. They go.
Yep, exactly. And now, speaking of Superman, this is kind of like this is another, like your 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon there. This is kind of similar. You know, Superman actually in the comics was split into 2 characters a couple times. He was turned into Superman Red and Superman Blue. And each version had like a different personality because it was supposed to be different parts of his own personality. So, you know, it kind of reminded me of that watching this, seeing, you know, Flash Red and Flash Blue, the way they had different personalities and everything, just because one's a clone. But it was just, it was reminiscent of that, of the stories of Superman from the comics.
Well, and we saw it in Lois and Clark when Lex Luthor made a clone of Superman.
Right.
So
Exactly.
And that clone was very childlike as well. So
That's true. I forgot about that. Wait.
but lest we forget, the Flash came first. So
Exactly. All right, now, I was looking to see, like, I did a search for Blue Flash because I was like, it's a neat looking costume. I like the blue. And I knew that at some point in the comics, more recently, of course, Barry Allen became a Blue Lantern. You know, we all know about the Green Lantern, but there's lanterns for every color out there in the comics. And he was picked to be a Blue Lantern, which was the power of hope. Yellow is the power of fear.
yeah, the Green Lanterns are the power of will, right?
And so you have the Blue Lantern for Barry, which is the power of hope, which is kind of fitting for him and everything. So we had a Blue Lantern there, but apparently you also have a Blue Lantern in the future, or a Blue Flash from the future. Some kind of future storyline involves Barry Allen using a blue costume for some reason and coming back into the past and trying to help with this and that, you know, a whole bunch of other things. But yes, we got a couple references to a Blue Flash in the actual comics. Most of them seem to be more recent though, so I'm not sure. I couldn't say that they took Pollux from those stories because those stories happened after this. There might be another version somewhere in the early days, but I haven't seen anything about it yet.
Well, maybe in the future, like he's accidentally destroyed like all of his Flash costumes, and then remembers, oh, I have that Pollux one that I threw in the cupboard that time. I'll just throw that on and go.
There you go. That's how he does it. Yeah, why not? Speaking of which, they made a pretty big deal about how much the suits cost to make. Like, remember we talked about it?
I was thinking this the whole time.
Yeah. It's like, how did they manage to make another costume, you know, another blue costume yet? I just thought, well, that's interesting.
Yeah, let's just throw away $10,000 for one episode.
Yeah, exactly. The last thing that I had to make a comment on was that the green screen work was not so great in this episode. I don't know if you noticed, but like you could see his faded hands, you know, in the episode there. And I was like, oh, that's not good.
It suffered from the same thing that pretty much like happened in Lois and Clark as well when they had the two of them in the same scene. There was, because they did it with Lois as well. Remember, there was like an evil Lois with some hit lady who like got cosmetic surgery or something. The eye lines were always off. Like they just they couldn't get it quite right, and it's a shame. But there it is.
Barry! Barry, what are you wearing? That's the most ridiculous thing
Stop that! Don't laugh at me.
I'm sorry.
I brought you flowers. Don't you like them?
Yes, they're very nice.
I went to 3 different shops. I didn't know what kind you like, so...
Thank you.
It was really great running into you in the park the other day. I'm sorry if I scared you. My name is Pollux.
My name is Tina. Pollux, there's someone I'd like you to meet.
Who?
He's a friend of mine, and I think you'd like him very much. Do you mind if I call him?
All right.
Oh, good.
All right, so let's get into the rundown. So, I mean, obviously we didn't mention it in the flashpoints or anything, but this Pollock's character, this is brand new, made up for the series. A genetically engineered clone. It's an interesting setup, right? Like, we pretty much get, like, straight into Brissell and Whitcomb working on creating their own speedster. And when it starts off and they got this guy on the treadmill and they're trying to test him out and he vaporizes, I didn't expect that, because I kind of just, like, thought, okay, they're just kicking it off. They're getting right into it. They've made the Barry clone, even though it didn't really look like I was like, is that supposed to be Barry? Or is it somebody else who's actually going to play Pollux and he's just got, you know, the speedster power or something? I don't know. But when he sort of, like, ran, like, so fast that he vaporized, I was like, that's new and different.
Yeah.
So what do you think about this whole idea, this cloning and making speedsters?
Well, I mean, when it first appeared, maybe I just glanced at it weird, but I thought it was Barry on the treadmill there, because I only saw from the back, and it kind of looked like his shape and everything. And then, why is he working with these other guys? You know, I was confused at first, but then obviously it wasn't supposed to be him. You know, it wasn't actually his character there.
Yeah, well, when it comes to them actually, you know, deciding they're going to clone the Flash, they have this plan of getting a robot to shank him. What was up with this scene? This little tiny robot with a knife.
Didn't we have a conversation like this before, though? Like, we're talking about this? It seems awful familiar.
What, like deja vu?
Yeah.
I don't remember a tiny robot knifing someone.
Not the tiny robot. There's something, I don't know, something very familiar about this that I thought that we had mentioned before. I don't know. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, no, I think this is a little bit silly. Because, you know, we also get into Barry, you know, doing some tests with Tina. We haven't seen this for a while. And she's saying that, like, Barry is losing speed, not getting quicker, not getting stronger. And he just cannot seem to get to the realization that he is vulnerable. And I think we've been talking about this. Like, the amount of times Barry gets, like, hit from behind or shot with a dart or...
Right.
You know, just somebody like hurts his leg and he's down for the count. And you're like, well, come on, dude. So when he gets cut by this robot, I'm just like, seriously? It was a tiny robot with a knife, dude. Like, how'd you get cut with that?
Exactly. And he's fast, too. You know, it's like the tiny robot shouldn't be as fast as he is.
And the robot, it's not like the robot had, like, a lot of dexterity about it, too. Like, it just sort of flicked the knife down. The chances of the robot actually cutting him were, like, 1 in, like, 100 million. So it's just convenient that, yes, he does get cut. And he also gets cut deep enough that he lays on the floor and lays it there. Not to mention that the whole train station had been evacuated because they set up this false bomb scare. Yet Brassel is still in there to go and pick up the DNA. So, I mean, there was just a lot of give-me's for this guy to get Barry's blood. So it was just a little bit of a stretch for me. But, I mean, I know they had to do something so they could clone him at the end of the day. Well, but even in that Lois and Clark episode that we watched where Lex did it, like, he figured it out, right? It was, like, something to do with a lock of hair. Like, he donated a lock of hair in charity or something like that. Exactly. Like, he's got his hands on it, right? They could have come up with a better way for these guys to get the Flash's DNA.
I guess the difference is in that Lois and Clark, Superman is well known and donating his lock of hair for this and that. Whereas here, the Flash is, I mean, he's getting known, but he's not super well known yet that he would be like donating his lock of hair or whatever to a charity or whatever.
Well, I mean, he still could have just gotten injured somehow. Like, why come up with a little robot with a knife to cut him?
True.
Like
that's true.
They could have just like stalked him, like go to every like crime scene where the Flash is showing up or something like that. And,
there you go.
You know, they find some blood. Hey, bang, got him.
Maybe they had this little toy robot and said, we got to find something to do with this. We created it for the Trickster episode, never came out, so let's use it for this.
The only thing that would be better if it had like a little robot voice. I'm going to cut you. I'll cut you.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for your blood.
All right. So I think we've talked about that enough. We got it.
Yeah.
Probably
too much.
They clone Barry. And I mean, they drag this out, right? This whole cloning process. Like, they go to the effort of saying, like, a little petri dish, and then it's a baby, and then we'll just let him cook for, like, 5 hours, 6 hours up in there, 12 hours later, banging a full man.
Exactly.
I'm like, I mean, give him some food or something, I don't know, but... no, it's like it just works like an oven. Just put the petri dish in there, and 12 hours later, bang, you got yourself a Barry clone.
If only it were so easy.
So what do you think of John Wesley's ship as Pollux?
Oh, it was fine. It's just like, it was like the Lois and Clark one where Dean had to act as a kid, you know? I think they did a pretty good job. You know, it's a lot of, it's just comedic to see them acting like that. But yeah, they did a fine job. You know, it's what else are you going to do about it? I mean, that's how kids kind of act. So
they bring up the using the powers without a suit on again. Remember we talked in like the first episode about how Barry would run really fast and his clothes would get all shredded. Right. That doesn't seem to be a problem anymore. We've seen him use his super speed without the suit on a whole bunch.
Yeah. Exactly.
And nothing happens. But again, they bring it up here. But this time it's more that he is overheating. Like he started burning up, so they had to make a suit for him to wear when he's going to use his super speed. Just another reason to get him in a blue super suit.
Yes.
And of course he escapes and almost assaults a child.
Yes.
What?
Yeah. It's kind of like the whole, you know, what's that? Of Mice and Men, you know, the Lenny character. He just doesn't understand his own strength. You know, that's
didn't
kind of
mean
what
to do it. I'm sorry.
Right. Exactly.
I know, it's a bit full on. The thing that weirded me out though is that, you know, they see Pollux there and he's mucking around on the, what's it called? The roundabout.
The spinner thing.
Whatever they call those. Barry runs over to stop him as the Flash, gets knocked away and knocked unconscious, by the way.
Yes.
And then Pollux seems to be infatuated with Tina, right? Pretty much what happened in Lois and Clark as well.
Yep.
Where, you know, he fell in love with Lois Lane. But then later, he seems like so hell-bent on finding Barry, pretty much. But I'm like, but you already met him, remember? In the park? When you knocked him unconscious? I thought that was kind of a weird disconnect.
Well, in the park, Barry showed up as the Flash, so he knows that there's this guy out here who has a similar outfit to him, but he didn't realize about the secret identity, I guess, right?
Well, I know, they still look the same. I mean, you're wearing the suit, he's also wearing the suit, so nobody else is wearing those suits.
Right, but then after, like, when he finds out that he actually, like, he tries to find, like, he wants to know who he is. You know, because he sees this other person who's just like him and he wants to like have his own like identity, I guess, you know? And so when he finds out that, you know, there's Barry, that he's Barry, like this is his face, he kind of wants to like become Barry. Like he wants that to be his identity as opposed to someone else's.
And then after this, he also murders one of the doctors, Whitcomb, and then he's walking around in some sort of French beret or something. He looks like a French sailor.
He does.
An interesting choice. I mean, just that he happened to be walking down the street. This outfit was in a shop window, so he stole it. Was this just a reason to just make him look weird and, I guess, in a way, embarrass himself in front of Tina? Because he gets real heated when people laugh at him.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, it was that, and I think also just to show that, like, he's impulsive. Like, he's gonna do what if he sees something he wants, he just takes it. You know, he's that just getting through, you know, like, oh yeah, he's definitely a kid.
I also wish they'd gotten into Barry's work a lot more. You know, they kind of had this sub thing of like Barry and Garfield seem to be butting heads. And then when Pollux takes over Barry's life and really like gets into, like, I wish that was more of it. I guess I kind of wish that they'd gotten to it earlier so we could have more of that sort of thing. But as it was, like, it kind of just seemed like filler. The fact that Barry was already butting heads with Garfield and then it just was made worse by Pollux showing up there.
I think this, like, again, we've said this before, this would benefit from a two-parter as well. There's so much they could have done. You know, so much more they could have done with the two Barrys and, you know, just the idea of two speedsters running around. Yeah.
Well, and it could have like led to Julio finding out that Barry's the Flash.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Exactly.
I'll be very surprised if Julio says anything to Barry in any of the coming episodes.
Right.
Because he's just so oblivious to the whole thing.
He is.
Just going back to, I'm not going to bring that up again. All right. Let's move on. All right, so the climax of the episode, Pollux takes a bullet for Barry when Brassel tries to shoot him.
I'm not quite sure why he did it, you know? Like, it was like odd to see him just, oh, I'm going to protect him. But 'cause you were just fighting him, you know? Like, what's the deal? Like, at first I thought that Brassel was trying to shoot Pollux still.
Yeah.
When you go back and look, he's definitely aiming, you know, towards, I think it was pretty clear he was aiming at Barry.
But why? That's
I know, exactly.
I'm just, like, he had nothing against the Flash personally, so why was he trying to kill him?
Maybe even because I was thinking maybe even a line would have helped, like saying how maybe we're going to replace you with, you know, Pollux, you know, and then we'll control him. But no, that wouldn't even make sense because he was still trying to trying to kill Pollux earlier. So yeah, it doesn't really make sense.
That's just kind of what this episode was. Like, they had an idea and they wanted to roll with that idea, but it just didn't make sense. Like, a lot of the choices they made, a lot of the explanations they came up with were just like, what? Like,
I mean,
do you realize this doesn't make sense? Or you're just going with it?
I like it just for the fact that we have, like, this blue Flash, this alternate Flash, which even when I first saw it back in the day, I was like, that's cool. Look at that. You know, it's like, it's Flash, but he's blue. It's a different type of Flash, you know, and yeah, the story itself doesn't make a lot of sense, but I like the visual of the blue Flash versus the red Flash.
Yeah, no, I agree. I do like the look with the blue Flash and everything. Like, again, with the disposing of the other Flash as well. Like, we saw this in Fast Forward, right? There's two Barrys, so what do? Oh, they just shimmer into each other. Here, Pollux dies, and then he does that, like, overheating thing that we saw at the beginning. Yeah. And I was just like, why? Like, I was asking why a lot in this episode. Like, it's just like, just things just happen and you're like, why? And they're just like, cause that's how we wrote it.
I will say, I mentioned the effects earlier. The effects of Pollux dying, that was pretty rough as well. We recently just got a new TV here. Big old 50-inch TV. So, you know, now that I have this TV and I have the DVD player, Blu-ray, whatever, that upscales. So I'm watching these DVDs and they look really good now, you know, as opposed to before. And I'm watching it and I was thinking to myself, like, they had a close up on Barry's, Pollux and Barry there where he's starting to die. I was like, man, that looks really good. You know, like for a DVD from, 1991, this looks really good. And then all of a sudden they shifted to where he's going to start to die. And you could tell it's like lesser quality, whatever. It was a lesser quality shot. Like there's a lot of grain and like the color was slightly off. And I was like, oh man, that does not.
Well, I
okay.
think what they do is they go to like a freeze frame.
Right.
Because they aren't quite at that point where they can put the effect on top of the video.
Right.
So they have to like go right up, freeze frame, and then layer the effect on top of that freeze frame. So that's why the color shifts and it goes grainy and weird looking. It's just, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I was just like, oh, that's a big change in quality right there. I was like, what the heck?
Yeah.
I might not have noticed that if I had been watching on the old TV.
But yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of just on the fence with this one. Like, I like the idea, I like the concept. I thought Pollux was an interesting character, but there was just too much. I don't think they thought this through properly. It just a lot of stuff just didn't make sense to me, and that frustrated me for the most part.
Pollux, stay away from me.
Look, we don't want to hurt you. We just want you to come with us.
No! I won't be locked up again. I'm not an experiment. I'm a human being. Pollux, I know what you're feeling. I'm you. I faced the same things when I got your powers. You want to destroy me. No. I know you. I know. You think I'm a freak. You feel threatened by me. You wish me dead. Pollux, you're wrong. I want to be free. To be someone. A person. I know. But your powers are dangerous. You don't know how to control them. I will. In time. I'm leaving. Then I have to stop you. I understand.
So, feedback. Guess what? We actually have a feedback.
Hey, all right.
An actual proper feedback. This came in from Adam on the via the website, goldensparmedia.com/feedback. And Adam writes, I watched The Flash when it originally aired while I was in college. I have the series on DVD, but haven't seen it in 10 years. I noticed they like to reuse the same sets on the Warner Brothers lot. In the Deadly Nightshade, Curtis Bohannon's mansion is the same building as the restaurant where the guy is shot and killed talking to Barry in Shroud of Death. Also, the Daily Planet from Lois and Clark is visible multiple times. Now, this I didn't notice.
No, I have to go back and look.
He says, I know you will probably catch the Gorilla Grodd reference. Indeed we did. I am impressed the artist in Central City who paints the murals must have it good, since he seems to have murals in every building in the city. I have been meaning to bring that up. There's a lot of murals everywhere.
Yeah,
you
I've
notice
seen that too.
like up in the lab, there's like a mural of a guy like mixing liquids in a beaker or something.
I didn't
Just to
notice
let you know, this is a science lab.
Exactly. That's interesting. I'll have to pay attention now.
I think he also painted Terry Cronenberg's apartment. Did you see that place?
I didn't notice it.
Oh. Anyway. He continues. I do have a question about the episode Flash Forward. Or Fast Forward. I think it was Fast Forward, wasn't it?
I don't remember. Fast Forward, yeah.
If Pike has managed to take over the government of Central City, where is the state and federal government? I think this is just like back... I brought up Back to the Future too, right? When we're talking about this, right? It's just, you know, that's how it is.
That's how it is.
The bad guy messed with something, and then there was time travel, and hey, now guess what? Like, the bad guy's in charge of the city, and you got to deal with it.
I mean, like, I think what we said, you know, or what you said was, you know, technically he really wasn't a criminal anymore. You know, he was okay. You know, he was in the eyes of the public. He had, you know, been
exonerated, right?
Exonerated, yeah. So like, if he wanted to run for mayor, why not? You know, and they think, oh, well, here's a decorated officer who gave his, you know, his time and serving the public, and yeah, maybe he would make a good mayor or whatever. And you know, it wasn't impossible to believe. But then, like I said, like I was like, how could this have happened? Like, how could he really have changed things so much? But like, you know, people leave. You know, people left, like Barry's parents and everything like that. The people who would want things to really change, they just got out of there. You know, Barry wasn't around. And so you kind of left with this guy in charge making these changes that the people are like, well, I guess this is it. This is how it's going to be. So I don't know, like, I don't know how exactly, you know, the state and the federal government affects local government. Like, do they get involved without people asking them to get involved, or you know, do they keep that close an eye and say, hey, I don't know about this Mayor Pike down here, he's doing this and that, you know, like he's declared martial law or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, it's the same with Batman, right? Like, why is there so much crime in Gotham? Why doesn't the state and federal government get involved? Like, exactly. Because they don't. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
Was in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, where I think Clark Kent wants to write a story about crime in Gotham.
Right.
Yeah. And Perry just looks at him and goes, headline, crime in Gotham. In other news, water, wet.
Yeah.
Like, that's just how it is.
Exactly.
But it's still a valid question, you know. I mean, but the show's not about reality, so
Yeah, you sort of just gotta let it go. You know, it's like it's not supposed to be super realistic. You know.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Well, thank you for the feedback, Adam. It's great to hear from you.
Yeah.
All right. So, of course, we also want to throw out there. We've been throwing it out there the last few weeks. We're trying to get up our iTunes reviews. So if you could head over to iTunes, give us a 4 or 5 star review, write something nice. Once we get up to 10 reviews, we're going to draw out a random name and give away a free free digital comic book. So
yep.
That would be really great. All right, so our next episode, we are talking about Done with Mirrors and Goodnight Central City. This is our penultimate Flash 90 rewatch episode. So what do you think they are?
Well, Done with Mirrors. Obviously, we're going to get Mirror Master.
Mirror Master.
And I know, like, just because I remember, Mirror Master is played by 70s teen heartthrob David Cassidy. So I'm looking forward to this because I don't remember anything about this episode at all, except that he played the villain, and I'm interested because I do love the Partridge Family. You know, I'm a big fan of the Brady Bunch, Partridge Family, all that cheese. You know, so I'm looking forward to seeing it again because I just don't remember anything about it.
Oh, very exciting! I like it.
Now, I don't know, Goodnight Central City.
Kind of seems like it should be the name of the season finale, right?
Right, yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. Good night. Nightshade might be back?
Well, I was thinking that, because, like, it has the night in there, but I don't remember him coming back at all again after that second episode. Perhaps, and I don't remember a villain. Like, I was thinking, like, well, there's the good guy from the DC Comics called the Sandman, who Nightshade was based on, but he uses a sleep gun. I don't remember any villains that do that either. So I'm trying to, I'm really honestly have no clue what Goodnight Central City could be. I imagine someone taking over the city. I don't know. I'm at a loss for this one. Like I have no idea. Goodnight Central City.
Well, I'm just gonna sit back and keep my fingers crossed for Nightshade's return.
Okay, there you go. And if that happens, we'll find out about it in the next episode of the Rewatch Podcast. Head over to goldenspiralmedia.com/Apple for more great podcasts from Golden Spiral Media. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Rewatch Podcast and on Twitter at Rewatch Pod. Also, don't forget your rating and reviews, like we said, are always appreciated on your podcast app of choice.
Absolutely. Okay, well, as always, thank you for joining me, Tom. And that'll just leave me to say until next time, I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll freeze all your stuff.
Oh, we gotta run.
Golden Spiral Media and the Rewatch Podcast are not associated with Pet Fly Productions, Warner Brothers Television, or Warner Brothers Television Distribution.
Come on, let's go down to Burger World so I can get some to eat.
The use of any and all copyrighted material is solely for parody, news, analysis, critique, or educational purposes, as provided in United States Codes Title 17, aka Fair Use.
I don't believe you! You're still worried about your experiment, about your life's work?
Music provided by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com.
If all else fails, we can always go to Vegas.
Copyright 2017, Golden Spiral Media.
What's your hurry? You got someplace to go?